KUAM, first on Guam for 50 years, is presented by Island Wines and Spirits, Guam Cell Communications, Nissan Motors Corporation, Subway, Mid-Pack Liquor, Pepsi Cola Bottling Company of Guam, Market Wholesale, Payless Supermarkets, Calvo's Insurance, Government of Guam Employees Federal Credit Union, Westin Resort Guam, and Calvo's Enterprises.
Hi, I'm Joseph Calvo, General Manager of KUAM Pacific Telestations, Inc. 50 years ago, KUAM Radio 610 AM signed on the air as Guam's first commercial broadcast station, revolutionizing the way our local community received entertainment, information, public service messages, and advertisements. 2 years later, KUAM spawned a television sibling. KUAM TV signed on the air in 1956 with a limited broadcast schedule of local and educational programs, and the rest, as they say, is history. The KUAM family today consists of KUAM 610 AM, I-94 FM, KUAM TV 8, and KUAM TV 11. KUAM has come a long way in the 50 years growing with you, the people of Guam. Together we've seen changes in technology from color TV to the capability to receive radio and television programs live via satellite, and most recently the addition of our internet entity, KUAM.com, to the KUAM family. Together we've experienced changes in pop culture from various music trends to the ever-changing face of national television entertainment. And together we have grown as a community, witnessing triumph and tragedy, disaster and recovery. We have always strived to maintain a connection with the community. Our commitment to providing you with the best in entertainment, news, and information will remain steadfast. KUAM's slogan, First on Guam, is not so much about chronologically being the first broadcast station on island, but more about remaining the first in the hearts and minds of our listeners and viewers. So thank you for letting us into your homes for the past 50 years. I now invite you to sit back and enjoy First on Guam for 50 years, celebrating this major milestone in Guam's history.
Welcome everyone to KUAM's 50th anniversary special. I'm Sabrina Salas, the news director here at KUAM. It's certainly an honor to be a part of putting this special together for all of our listeners and viewers. It's given me the chance to meet those who have molded KUAM into what it is today. It also gives you, our viewers and listeners, an opportunity to learn more about our roots and how KUAM has grown over the years. It was one former employee who said, "It's not who used to work at KUAM, it's who didn't." There's so many people that we obviously couldn't fit into our program tonight, but if they're watching us online or at home, all of us presently working at KUAM would still like to thank you for your contributions to this company. And to those who we were able to contact and help us put together KUAM's journey over the past 50 years, we'd like to thank you as well. Hopefully you won't be too upset with the old pictures and video archives we've managed to get our hands on. Did I mention bloopers? It's certainly been a huge labor of love to put together the story of KUAM. We hope you enjoy it.
This is radio station KUAM, owned and operated by Radio Guam, broadcasting on an assigned carrier frequency of 610 kilocycles, with a power output of 1,000 watts as authorized by the Federal Communications Commission in Washington, D.C. KUAM's studio and transmitter are located in Hagatna, Guam, in the Marianas Islands.
March 14th, 1954, the headlines would read, KUAM on air tonight. At 6 o'clock that evening at a makeshift studio in Ordot, KUAM would take over the airwaves of the Armed Forces Radio Services Guam. The military radio station was the only broadcast communication station prior to the arrival of KUAM.
At this time, for the invocation, I have the honor to present the Most Reverend A.W. Baumgartner, Bishop of Guam.
Let us pray. Today we bow before the omnipotent and eternal God, who has made the heavens and the earth and all things that are in them, and has given unto the mind of man the ability to probe into the secrets of thy creation, learning generation after generation of thy wonders and of thy power, approaching, yet never being able to reach fully the perfection of thy knowledge of things created. Today we bow before thee as we dedicate this first civilian radio station for our territory, asking thee to bless its inception and to protect its operation, so that it may be a fruitful means of information and education, a source of light and knowledge, a mode of recreation and pleasure.
It was a man named Harry Engel that was behind bringing to Guam its first commercial radio station. The station served as a new voice for the Marianas. On its premiere program on KUAM 610 AM, it was Anderson Air Force Base Wing Commander Colonel Edwin G. Simison who said, quote, "It strengthens the voice of democracy as well as increases the contact of all the people in Guam with the United States. Radio, like the printed word, contributes to the life and culture of a people in a dynamic way. It brings the experience of the world within easy reach, and by doing that, it not only contributes to our enjoyment and education, but it makes for better understanding and improves community relationships."
Good evening. This is your acting governor, Pat Herman, speaking on behalf of Governor Ford Q. Elbridge. Few events on Guam have stirred the imagination and aroused the enthusiastic island-wide interest and support of the entire territorial population compared with this opening tonight of Guam's first privately owned commercial radio station, KUAM. This event appropriately has also attracted national interest with widespread news and radio coverage throughout the United States, beneficial to the stature of the territory, and a testimonial in itself of the merchandising salesmanship of KUAM's manager, Harry Engel, and his associates.
The advertisement campaign back then boasted everybody has to listen to KUAM on Guam. 70,000 people must listen to radio station KUAM because there is no other station.
Beneficial to the stature of the territory, and a testimonial in itself of the merchandising salesmanship of KUAM's manager, Harry Engel, and his associates.
With KUAM being the only radio broadcast at the time, it also was the first to bring to the people of Guam local radio news. Local historian Tony Palomo was fresh out of college when KUAM went on the air.
Well, you know, when KUAM started in, I believe, in 1954, that's the same year that I graduated from college. And I returned home to work for the Daily News. And it's, I think KUAM was, a tremendous addition to the local media. Because when you speak of media, you only speak of KUAM and the Daily News. That's it. When somebody important here comes to the island, it's me and one guy from KUAM. And if an admiral is going to the Vietnam or to Korea, someplace, it's always KUAM and the Daily News, and that's all that's necessary, because in the early years there were only two institutions here of communication, the Guam Daily News and KUAM.
Aside from news, some of the radio programs broadcast during KUAM's early days included the hillbilly hit Corral. The people of Guam would hear the voice of some of the nation's biggest stars at the time, like Bob Hope, Dinah Shore, and Bing Crosby.
Hello, this is Bing Crosby. I'd like to add my good wishes and congratulations to station KUAM, its management and personnel in Guam, on the occasion of their premier broadcast. It's heartwarming, really, when we realize that this island, which such a comparatively short time ago was a scene of so much chaos and bloodshed, is today the home of a colony of people who are able to enjoy the freedom and the way of life for which so many lives were sacrificed. I hope you'll continue to enjoy the programs KUAM carries. Again, congratulations and good luck.
As far as local programming, Women's World became a popular program, which would later move to KUAM TV. It was hosted by Madeline Bordallo. Guam's Washington delegate was actually KUAM's first receptionist.
That was before KUAM radio went on the air. And we had a Quonset hut in Ordot, and that's where I, began. I was a typist in the beginning, and I remember Mr. Harry Engel was the founder of KUAM, and when I went in, he told me to type a Campbell tomato soup commercial to see how my typing was. And I was typing and typing and typing, and the pile became very high. And when he opened the studio door, he said, "Why are you doing all that? You're hired."
During her time here at KUAM, Congresswoman Berdallo, like so many other past and present employees of KUAM, wore many hats, from being the former program director, news director, to on-air talent.
Well, I had a program called The Interesting Women of the Community. And I started with the governor's wife and the admiral's wife, the general's wife, and all of that. And that was very interesting. I also did a show where I featured different communities on Guam, and that was really special because even European communities were represented through the military. So I had the Samoan community, the Filipino community, the Indian community, and I'd bring them up, and they would, the whole theme would be that particular theme, and then they would do their fashion show, wearing their costumes, and then we'd do a special dish from their country, and we sought military help, and they would also bring in European wives of the military, and they would provide the show. Incidentally, my program director, or the one that did the programming for me, was a military wife. She was a lieutenant's wife.
It was a few years after KUAM 610 AM signed on air that the company transcended from the only local radio station to Guam's first television station as well. Under the new ownership of Scott Kilgore and Sam Rubing, the two formed the Pacific Broadcasting Corporation. KUAM TV, initially an NBC affiliate, was born on August 5th, 1956.
I believe TV came about in 1956, but shortly after the radio. And I remember KUM used to be up at Odor. My God, that place, you can get lost in that little building there, and it's falling apart, but KUM still operates, And even during crises like typhoons, they're able to maintain it, But I really believe that KUM played a major role in the information business,
When KUAM TV signed on the air, acting governor of Guam, William T. Corbett, called it, quote, a milestone in the progress of Guam, which points to the way to further economic and social gains for our territory. The acting governor would call upon the people of Guam to take cognizance of the importance of the addition to the betterment of community life. It was Sean Hanna who would anchor KUAM's first television newscast. After Hanna, many more would fill the anchor desk, to include Bill Gibson. Gibson, like Berdallo, wore many hats. He was part of the original news crew when news was done on the radio. He was also a former news director.
I went to work there in 1958. I was a young sailor stationed at Naval Air Station, and I had had some broadcast experience and knew a guy who had been with a competing station in Texas. And I called him up one day and he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm in the Navy." And he said, "Well, were you in the Navy in Corpus Christi?" And I said, "Yeah." And so he said, "You want some part-time work?" He said, "We need, night guys. Every radio station in the world needs guys to work at night." And that's what I did for almost a year. Was go in at 5, punch the transmitter off at midnight, and then it came time for me to get out of the Navy. And in those days, they would not discharge you here. For some reason, well, it was the Navy clearance, but you had to go all the way back to California to get a piece of paper from the U.S. Navy saying it's okay if the civilian lives in Guam now. It's fine. So they made me a job offer, and I thought, hey, I'm 22 years old. Let's go back and live in Guam. And it was a delight to live here then because traffic was minimal. I mean, it was a kind of a 1-2-3 island. There was one airline, there were 2 traffic lights, and there were 3 flights a week to anywhere. One bank, and you could drive down the road. We didn't all have air conditioning then. You knew each other's cars. We waved to each other. It was just a wonderful spot to live. And I lived originally not on the base, but in a house that 2 other sailors and I rented down here on the beach in Tamuning. And we never had a key to the place. We'd just go out and let the screen door slam behind us. And the neighbors watched the house and took care of these 3 young sailors, and we in turn would pick up some things for them at the Navy Exchange when we went on Saturdays to buy our groceries and toilet paper and things like that.
10 years after KUAM TV would sign on air in September of 1966, Pacific Broadcasting would add another station to the KUAM family, with KUAM FM signing on the air. It would also bring new ownership to KUAM and new management. Local radio personality John Anderson once graced the halls of KUAM in Ordot as its vice president and general manager. He was hired by the new owner at the time, Bobby Berger, in 1977.
Mr. Berger was a broadcaster from Hawaii. He had been a television broadcaster. I had worked for him at Channel 4, which was then KHVH in Hawaii. And then he had gotten involved in American Samoa with the government down there. And he also had had some, dabblings in other, he was familiar with the broadcast operations in other places. We were actually supplying television tapes of programs to American Samoa from Hawaii. And when Scott Kilgore got in trouble, which was basically after Super Typhoon Pamela in May of 1976, he was close to going bankrupt. And the law firm that he used in Washington, D.C. was a company called Pearson, Ball, and Dowd. And they were also the law firm representing Berger and KHVH in the operation in Hawaii. And so they contacted Citibank, which held some of the paper, contacted Pearson, Ball, and Dowd, who in turn contacted Berger because they knew he had Pacific Island broadcast experience, and asked if he had any interest in Guam. And he said, sure, let me fly out and take a look. So Berger flew out here shortly after Typhoon Pamela, and he was, of course, dismayed at the devastation of the island because Pamela was a fierce and terrible storm. And the broadcasting station was barely operating. It lost 2/3 of its tower, which fell over and crashed onto the office suite that they had behind the studios in Ordot. And Mr. Kilgore was in the office at the time that the tower landed on the roof, and basically it scared him so badly that he wanted to get out. And it was just a very rough time. The FM was not on the air. The AM was broadcasting, but barely, and the television station, they had managed to attach one bay of the television antenna to the top of the 1/3 of the tower that was still standing behind the studios, and they were able to put out a television signal that was sufficient to reach the cliff line at Naval Hospital, where Guam Cable TV had a receiver. And they picked it up, put it on the cable system. The cable system got back up and running after Typhoon Pamela faster than KUAM did. Mr. Kilgore didn't have the resources. In fact, one of the things that we bought when we bought the company was the insurance payoff to rebuild that tower that was lost up in Ordot. And so we had to basically refurbish the company and put it back on the air, including the FM station. And we did that. We came in and took over, as I said, in September, October of 1977.
Since then, KUAM has continued to grow. In August of 1990, the stock of KUAM AM FM TV Pacific telestations would be under the control and ownership of the Micronesia Broadcasting Corporation. The corporation was a combined venture of Air Micronesia and Calvo Enterprises. Eventually, KUAM AM FM TV would be under the sole ownership of Calvo Enterprises. While dozens of typhoons have blown through our Pacific Island, KUAM was able to weather each of these storms, coming back stronger and better than before.
We've only just started, folks. Ahead we'll show you how KUAM Radio and KUAM TV have evolved over the years. You'll hear and see some familiar faces. But first,
which renowned Catholic bishop gave the opening invocation during KUAM Radio's inaugural broadcast on March 14, 1954?
The answer when we return. Before the break, we asked,
which renowned Catholic bishop gave the invocation during KUAM's inaugural broadcast on March 14, 1954? The answer is Bishop Bumgarner.
Bishop Bumgarner, along with many island dignitaries and famous Hollywood stars, were the first voices to be heard on KUAM 610 AM. Since then, however, there have been many other voices that have surfed our airwaves. We now take you on a ride down memory lane and bring you a closer look at how KUAM radio has evolved over the last 5 decades.
This is radio station KUAM, owned and operated by Radio Guam, broadcasting on an assigned carrier frequency of 610 kilocycles.
This was the voice heard round the island as KUAM radio first took to the airwaves. Though not very exciting by today's standards, KUAM's inaugural broadcast opened the door to a whole new exciting world of entertainment, news, and information to listeners on Guam. The sounds of commercial broadcast radio seemed to bridge the distance between Guam and the United States mainland as top Hollywood idols gave personal salutes to local residents during KUAM's first day on the air. From Frank Sinatra.
Hi there, this is your friend Frank Sinatra with a heap of good wishes and special congratulations to all of the fine people here on station KUAM, Guam's first commercial broadcasting station.
To legendary comedian Bob Hope.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? Well, here we are at Guam. Guam, that's the Polynesian word meaning rock.
The face of entertainment on Guam was forever changed on March 14th, 1954. As an NBC affiliate, residents could look forward to KUAM's typical programming day, consisting of popular music, local and national news, special entertainment shows such as the country western themed Hillbilly Hit Corral, and local human interest in ethnic programming. In 1966, an FM entity was added under the KUAM umbrella with an automated format of beautiful, or what's commonly known as elevator music. The AM unit maintained its safely popular format of 1950s and 60s standards with KUAM's staple of ethnic and Chamorro programs, but it wouldn't be long before things were shaken up a bit. Jerry Roberts recalls his first stint at KUAM in 1973.
And so I was hired the next day, essentially, and put in there and told to play only the music that was there, which was music of basically of the 50s and 60s, standards, if you like. That's what they called them back then. And I did that for a few days, and then we slowly began to introduce little bits of rock and roll into it. And that caused just a firestorm of problems. And I was threatened with my job and many, many times.
Roberts left KUAM in '73, but returned in 1977 as revamped radio personality J.Q. Fanihi to a new general manager, a familiar voice in broadcasting, John Anderson.
Shortly after we took over, we brought in Jerry Roberts, who became known as J.Q. Fanihi. And he pretty much set the island on its ear because he was the first really in-your-face radio personality that Guam had ever had.
The Fanihi show in those days was a rapid-fire thing for 3 hours, eventually 4, that whatever kind of came top of mind is what came out the mouth. I scripted a lot of things. I had characters, I had voices, we did long-distance phone calls to celebrities and all that, but it was fairly well free-form. I tend to think that it was a very normal program. But if you ask some other people, they probably might give you a different opinion. I think for the time, in the late 70s, we pushed the envelope a little bit. Now again, I want to balance it off with what happens today. Pushing the envelope today is a little bit different. They're really in your face today. It's more overt. I kind of let people make their own punchlines up most of the time. I would take it right to the edge and then wouldn't say what they might say. Therefore, it was up to them to go, for the end result. We did some things. Was it controversial? Maybe. Sometimes.
The first week that we had J.Q. Fanihi on the air, I did nothing but sit in my office and answer the phone and deal with complaints. By the end of the week, I think he'd managed to tick off virtually every segment of the community, the military, the Catholic Church, you name it. But the thing was, everybody was listening. J.Q. probably had a bigger listening audience than any radio personality before or since. And he was great talent.
And J.Q. Fanihi wasn't the only talent to grace the airwaves of KUAM radio during this time.
I think we had, I think we had some of the better talent in those days in one place than I think in the history of Guam radio I think we had such a concentration of talent because if you recall, when you have one radio station, all the talent that wants to be on the air gets to go one place. And they really weren't, it really wasn't a situation of one station, there were like three. If you counted the FM station that we had, plus there was another FM station in town, there were three stations, maybe four signals by the time I left. And so people had a choice, but we seemed to get more of it. We were the most upfront, in-your-face radio station. In a nice way, I'll say in your face. Today that connotation has something else. But it was in a nice way. We were fun, we were upbeat, we were positive, we were getting out in the community. And people that wanted to work in radio wanted to come to work for KUAM AM in those days. That was the station to be at. And we simply put together a powerhouse team of people. And some of those people I know will be on this special, and you'll interview them, and their memories I think will be very vibrant of the kind of people we had going through there. I mean, the biggest name, Uncle Tote, Joe Cunningham.
Well, the lineup was, in the morning, was J.Q. Fanihi, and there was a lady in middays named Teresa Norton, who is now a media icon in Hong Kong. She was in middays and I was in the afternoon. JQ had his characters in the morning. I had characters of my own that I actually ad-libbed. There was Four-Wheel Tex Pickup, who was a much bigger guy than I am, and there was a character, Lieutenant Arnold Prelm of the Guam Radio Police. And some other characters, the engineer was Professor Werner von Heineken. And basically these characters were all working together, but they had their own little internal squabbles, and Tex and I were the ones getting crazy. Well, Tex was the craziest, and I was kind of like the congenial moderator.
Also on the popular KUAM roster at the time was the ultra-hip Johnny Gerber.
John Gerber, who's in the news a lot lately with this Marine Corps Drive issue, was one of our disc jockeys back then when I took over, and he was one of the most popular, best-known radio personalities on Guam.
Gerber, who literally grew up at KUAM working various jobs before settling into his most notorious gig as an AM DJ, is modest about his DJ fame.
When I started spinning records, I was the only DJ on Guam, you know, and we were the only radio station, so it's not like everybody had a choice, you know.
What captivated JG's loyal audience was his ear for music.
I picked up, you know, I know what the kids like. We had our own sort of music, you know, and then we went through the disco age. But disco music to me, you know, just because there was a lot of it at the time, wasn't necessarily what I played all the time, you know. I played whatever was popular. But I liked music, you know. I could pick up an album and I could pick out the hits, you know, before they even got on the charts. You know, and make them popular here before they even got back there. Chamorro people, you know, our people like to dance, you know. We like to dance, we like to party, and that's the kind of music I played on the weekends, you know, party music.
Satisfying a local listening audience has always been a part of KUAM's mission, and KUAM AM has, for the most part, always incorporated some type of Chamorro programming on its lineup through the years. From Tom and Ike Charfris to Jesus Chamorro, Rick Big Boz Baza, and everybody in between, KUAM 610 AM has always had a place for Chamorro music and language programming. JT Palomo has been a part of the Chamorro Music Weekend crew on Isla 61 for close to 15 years.
Going throughout the years, you know, Rick Bossa and of course, you know, Doom, Ed Chargleff, and Island Girl, or Beautiful Chamorita. And that team, you know, especially this Weekend Warrior team, the one that people refer to as Island Girl as a Weekend Warrior, few di man maagam no Gwini Radio Weekend Warrior lo, you know, our team is so cohesive. Si Island Girl, Ed Chargleff, Senior Doom, and myself, you know, we really stuck together.
After rotating different formats only to be off the air close to a year as a result of damages from Typhoon Pongsonhua, KUAM 610 AM, Isla 61 is back on the air with its tried and true format, as described best by program director Kev Quintanilla.
The playlist consists of Chamorro, 80% Chamorro, 10% country, 10% oldies but goodies.
KUAM-FM has also sought to find a format to please such a diverse local community and has taken many different incarnations over the years.
Oh yeah, the format of the month club?
From 94 Rock to Magic 94 to Classic 94 to Hot 94, 93.9 FM was a station known for its ever-changing names. Each name change brought on a subtle format change. Cindy Hansen and Millie Leon Guerrero were both DJs on 94 Rock, spinning the hottest new music during the 80s.
The 80s, it was all new wave, right? We got to do new wave. We did, oh gosh, the Go-Go's, the B-52s, the Cars.
And there was still some, yeah, she used to, oh my gosh, relax, over and over. No, but we used to also have still the rock format. There was Ronnie James Dio, so there was still a little bit of the old Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, but I mean, it was, since it was
we did all the
80s,
hair bands, though.
Yeah, but since it was the 80s, you know, the hard rock was going out, the new wave, the punk stuff was coming in.
Wasn't it the reverse? Wasn't actually the punk stuff was kind of going out in the new wave, or the hair bands? Yeah, well, Motley Crue came.
Then the hair bands
yeah.
came, yeah. Gosh, yeah, Motley Crue and Rat and Quiet Riot and some of those others, yeah. But
that's back when you judged how cool you were by how big your hairspray bottle was. Standing up.
While KUAM-FM was 94 Rock, it sponsored many concerts with the big names of the time in rock and pop music, Quiet Riot. It was one of the first groups to pack the UOG Fieldhouse.
Back then, I guess, I liked Quiet Riot because I was a headbanger. So, I mean, I was up on the top level of the UOG, you know, looking down on the bleachers and everything, hanging out the window. Norman Lee was a news person at that time, and he was like basically holding me while I was hanging out the window and yelling, "Bang your head," because they hadn't played Metal Health yet, and so I guess that was their encore song. So I'm screaming out this window, "Bang your head, bang your head," and that was my favorite.
The top 40 and rock formats of 94 FM carried on through the 80s and early 90s and initially stayed put even during KUAM's move from Ordot to Harmon Loop Road. Former weekend DJ Roki Uggan holds a position in KUAM's history as the last DJ on the air before the big move.
To make the move, right, there's got to be somebody on the radio to be the last one at Orbit, but that same person has to get in their car, throw all the music, right, into these boxes, and then shoot up to Harmon as fast as you can, legally, without endangering anybody, right? And then being there ready to sign on and start playing music, because we don't want to lose too much time. We don't have too much time off the air. If you can do it in 30 minutes, that's perfect. So I was like, shoot, man. So it was great to be, for me, the experience, you know, to be the last one to sign off. You know, Classic 94 is KUAM-FM Hagatna. You know, boom. You know, then close it all off, and then shoot up to Harmon, and then Classic. And then it went from Classic 94 Hagatna to Classic 94 FM Harmon.
Familiar names like Uncle Tote, Fred Nelson, and Joe Napati stayed on with KUAM-FM during this time under the same format. But times and music were changing, and 94 was about to take on a format that dramatically departed from the world of rock. 94 Jams, the People Station, was urban contemporary, R&B, and something new for both the people of Guam and the staff and management of KUAM.
Guam's true number one.
Yeah, the People Station. I mean, we really stuck to the People Station because we really concentrated on a lot of promotional events. We really wanted to get the station out. We had this dial, number one on the dial promotion once, where we parked at Marine Drive, and everyone that drove up to us, if their number one station was on 94 Jams, they won a bunch of prizes and stuff.
$1,000 giveaway. What's that commercial?
What's that commercial? Yeah. And we had a lot of fun, but we had a lot of fun doing all about the people. It was all about Guam. It was all about everyone enjoying listening to our stations, calling in to win prizes, us going out and meeting them.
94 Jams was more than just a radio station. It was a promotions vehicle.
We had a fun time. I mean, Mark, Hollywood, Kelly Kell, the Rec Shop. I mean, everyone just went out and just enjoyed themselves out with the people, and that was what we wanted to really focus on, the People Station.
Yeah.
94 Jams.
Former sales manager Krista Gaza recalls one of 94 Jam's craziest promotions.
The one wild one that sticks out in my mind was the hands-on, where we had 3 different prize packages. One was a car. We had an old Porsche. One was a trip off island along with like a wedding or honeymoon package. And the third was a home tent that was filled with all kinds of things, from furniture to a home computer, television, VCR, all kinds of things. Stereo, I think, was there. And the way we ran the promotion was you had to stand with your hands on this railing that we made out of pallets. And we did it right across from JFK in the field in front of Goodwill at the time. And that one sticks out in my mind because we spent 24 hours a day for, I believe it was 6 days before the final prize was given away. And there was a lot of controversy with that because of the way we judged or the way we handled the people who were eliminated. If their hand raised off the railing at all, if we could slide our finger or ruler or anything else underneath their hand from the railing, they were eliminated. Otherwise, we would have been there for weeks. And that one sticks out in my mind, I think, because of the shifts, when we did the overnight shifts and the bathroom breaks and all the fighting amongst the contestants and the judges. So, and it was right before Typhoon Paka. That was the kicker.
94 Jams evolved into I-94 FM soon after the new millennium. I-94's feel-good radio format of adult contemporary and island music is one that seems to satisfy the local community's eclectic tastes.
And it's been great, just playing the island music and blending it in with the top 40 music, old school music. We got Tony Blas in the morning, Brian and Francis in the afternoon, Patrick Limtiaco at night with Island Nights. So we got I'm really happy about the music that we're playing, the formula that we got going on, the feel-good music.
From morning talk with Tony Blas to smooth middays with Daryl Lizama to the afternoon overdrive with Brian and Francis and weeknights with Pat Limtiaco, there's something for everyone on I-94 FM these days.
We're growing. We're a new station. We're still, how do we say it, in our experimental stage. We're still trying to experiment with different types of music. But you can expect a lot more growth, better music, and more of it.
The music, names, and faces of KUAM Radio may have been ever-changing through the years, but there's no denying that KUAM Radio has played a role in shaping the careers of some of Guam's most talented and successful people.
Here's another KUAM trivia question for you. Which of the following legendary performers gave a salute to Guam during KUAM Radio's first broadcast? Was it Frank Sinatra, Lucille Ball, or Louis Armstrong? We'll have the answer when we return. Before the break, we asked which performer gave an opening day salute on KUAM Radio, Frank Sinatra, Lucille Ball, or Louis Armstrong. The answer is old Blue Eyes himself, the chairman of the board. Frank Sinatra was among many other celebrities, including Bing Crosby and Bob Hope, who shared special greetings to Guam during KUAM's first broadcast. Well, Frank Sinatra definitely didn't know what the future would hold for KUAM. Within 2 years, KUAM radio's sibling, KUAM TV, was born, being the first commercial television station in Guam with affiliations with NBC and later CBS. KUAM took the island by storm, dominating the broadcasting industry here in both radio and television. In your homes and through the years, we've brought you special coverage of elections, tragedies, special events. We've always been committed to localism, and at the core of that is KUAM News.
I don't want them to be a part of this.
From hard-hitting headlines to entertainment news and programs, KUAM TV over the last several decades has secured its dominance in the television industry in Guam. After KUAM AM went on the air a half a century ago, KUAM TV would follow in its footsteps. The people behind the voices of radio would soon find themselves in front of the camera. And while KUAM has moved forward with the changes in technology, before digital video and computerized graphics, it was still pictures.
And I started doing TV news. And it was kind of the Wild West. On the TV screen side of it, yeah, it looked like regular television. But on the other side, It was nuts. We didn't have camera people. We did everything with set cameras in the studio. And so you sat there and you read the news, and then you took a break. We had one camera on the announcer, another camera on still photographs, was just what we used. There was no film, there was no videotape in those days. And we did half hour of news and sports and weather. Our weather guy had absolute credibility because it was a Navy petty officer from the Fleet Weather Central, and he came in uniform. And so you knew this guy knew what he was talking about. And we did sports with a guy who was a sports nut, and so he knew all about it. And we had a very attractive young woman for a long time who did our weather. And one of the people that we shared the TV studios and lenses with was a woman named Madeline Bordallo. And Madeline did a program called Woman's World, and it was a production. I mean, she did 13 episodes live in the studio. It wasn't in color. We didn't get into color until, I think, 72 or 73. And at the end of each season, because everybody at the station participated in that program in some way, we all did a little end of season something for Madeline. And one of the funniest ones was when we wrapped up a chicken in a box and gave it to her, all gift wrapped, and blessed the chicken. He didn't make a peep through the whole presentation. And then she opened the box and out came this chicken on live TV. It was wild.
And it could only get more wild as KUAM would make the switch from just still pictures to film. Frank Napati was one of KUAM's first film editors. He worked at KUAM's former studios in Ordot for almost 20 years.
We had a 16 millimeter movie projector. Let me show you that it's no, this is 8 millimeter movie projector at that time. Yeah, camera. We have to go out and shoot in some of the business establishments. Like the late Governor Ricky Badal, sometimes we went down to Anigat and shoot the commercial right there. Then when that thing is finished, they have to bring it back to the KUAM and processing it. I did the processing on the development, to develop the film. Then after that, dry it down a little bit and then take it over to the film section and edit it again and what show is that going to sponsor. But all the commercials that we're playing before the main show is shown, some of that, except the Budweiser. The Budweiser has to be within the 30 minutes show there.
You got to remember back then we used 16 millimeter, black and white. Color was just something coming into. We had the Allensack Talent Show. That was the big show on Guam. They had Woman's World with Madeline Bordallo, Laling Camacho. I did all of those. I was cameraman on most of that. Camera boy, I was only 16, I believe, 15.
From film, KUAM TV would continue to move forward with the changes in technology.
But then we also had the early satellite capability. And while it was very expensive for special kinds of things, we could do satellite live broadcasting. And in January of 1978, we did the first ever on Guam live broadcast telecast of a sporting event, and that was the Super Bowl. And Ricky Bordallo was the governor at the time, and Ricky Bordallo declared a half a day holiday for the Super Bowl. I mean, that's a joke now because Super Bowl Monday, of course, but at the time, the very first time, they actually let GovGuam employees off for half a day so they could watch the game.
In the 1980s, KUAM TV would see Nestor Lecanto and Carlotta Leon Guerrero on the airwaves.
When I first started at KUAM, I started out doing sports. I had just come back from Hawaii. I'd been living in Hawaii for 7 years, and my girlfriend Sandy was working at KUAM, and I was heading to the beach, and she said, "Come on, I can get you a job over there." And so I went in there, and I was offered 2 jobs, to be in sports or to be a general beat reporter. But I chose sports because I didn't want to cover the legislature, which is kind of ironic, as it turned out. So when you were there, you always had to fill in, so there'd be other times when I'd have to fill in and do stories. And you always did radio. You always had to do a lot of radio. So it was a real good beginning. It was in '83, and he was copywriter.
Yeah, I was still going to school at UOG, and I was working as a copywriter. And then when I graduated, Ron Tangy, who was the news director at the time, offered me a job as a news reporter. So that's how I started back in '83.
Part of the news team back then was a short-haired, energetic woman named Sandy Yao.
A reporter with the Tribune, and Dave Eckert asked if I would come and be a reporter up at KUAM, and I said no, but I would think about it as long as my face was not on camera. And so he said, no, fine, it's okay, you don't have to be on camera. So for the longest time, you just saw my arm with the microphone, and it would come back and forth, and I'd interview. There were no cutaways, there were no shots of me at all. So it was the only way that I would agree to do it. And eventually, I got used to it, and he started moving the camera closer to me so that you get a better shot of who was doing the interview. But it was pretty funny.
Sandy says her time here gave her the opportunity to meet people she otherwise wouldn't have met.
I got a call from the airport that Kenny Rogers was going to be on Guam, and I said, "What?" I grabbed a cameraman, we went up to the airport. This is the old airport, and we got in, and there was a few other reporters there. And one of the reporters was Jerry Roberts, and Jerry knew everything about his music and everything about his history, and he asked all the greatest questions, and my camera was rolling, but they were all Jerry's questions. So I thought to myself, what can I do that Jerry can't? So I asked the wife if I could kiss him on camera. And I gave him a big kiss on the cheek, and I said, I signed off, this is Sandy from KUAM Island News. And it worked.
As for Nestor, he eventually would rise to the position of news director. He had worked at KUAM for more than a decade.
Oh God, there's so many. I was at KUAM for 11 years, and I'd been through the worst of it and the best of it. And what stands out to me was just the day-to-day thing, and how the crew and the reporting staff made that transition. Because when I first started, there weren't a whole lot of local reporters, which was not that good, I thought. And eventually, as more kids went off to college and decided to take up communication as a career like yourself, they started coming back. And then, because being from Guam, you have a certain perspective that, no matter how good of a reporter you are from the States, you just don't have that perspective. So there's a greater depth of understanding of local issues when you come from the island. So that was a really good thing to see evolve over KUAM. And I see your staff now, we got a lot more local reporters than we had back then. But then, there's the funny stuff too, like the transmission was very bad back then, and the equipment was not so good. So, you'd be on the air, and the background's supposed to be blue, and it's purple, and you're supposed to be, brown, and you're green. So you go out, and people say, oh, you're not really green after all. Those sort of things. And it's funny the first 1,000 times, but after that, it becomes a little...
He worked with a woman that I've always admired, Ginger Cruz. The two hosted a Guam version of the Today Show called Buenas.
Buenas, and good morning, everyone, on this Wednesday, February 23rd, 1994. I'm Nestor Lecanto.
And I'm Ginger Cruz. Thanks a lot for joining us this morning.
Nestor's probably the one person that I thought, he was the Dan Rather of Guam. He brought credibility, he brought smarts, he brought ethics, he brought direction, really, to the newsroom. And I learned so much from him, just in everything that I do. There's always a little bit of something that he taught me that I've kept with me, and I think that he was so much a part of that. The other person who on the lighter side of things, I thought was just the most creative person I could have ever run across was Fred Nelson. We brought in this like $60,000 Avid system before Avid systems were, they've gotten a lot cheaper nowadays, but in those days it was an incredible piece of technology. And his hands would fly across that thing, and the computer would have to catch up with him because because he was already thinking 20 steps ahead. And it was incredible just to watch all of the energy and the enthusiasm and the creativity that he would put towards making zany commercials or, you know, just putting stuff on the air that caught people's imaginations. I think those are two people. And then, you know what? The unsung heroes, and I will say this much, I remember every photographer and editor and producer and director that I ever worked with. I mean, you know, all the guys that are probably still there, Rudy and Econ and Ricky Cruz, and I mean, just all those guys. They are the unsung heroes. They don't get to go on camera. Nobody ever gets to see them. But people oftentimes don't appreciate, and I've worked in TV here in Tennessee a couple of years ago, people don't appreciate how professional those guys are and how much they are responsible for the high quality that KUAM has. And it's really due to the technical staff, all of them. I just couldn't say enough about them.
Ginger eventually would be promoted to news director while at KUAM.
I miss it sometimes, you know, when I'm sitting here. I'm doing wonderful things here, and I'm really excited. I'm involved in a project now that's getting me really involved in Iraq. But, you know, there are days when nothing could have matched the excitement level and the sense of accomplishment of being at KUAM. And it's something that taught me so much in my life, shaped me so much, and I'll never forget it.
The Buenas show with Ginger and Nestor was one that many island residents remember. It had news with Carmen Ulloa.
Security has been beefed up around the home of Senator and gubernatorial candidate Carl Gutierrez.
Sports with Patrick Lujan.
Last night in the Guam Major League, the Exxon Tigers were still seeking their first win of the season against the Armed Forces Pirates.
And health news with Karen Flores.
Good morning, I'm Karen Flores, and we're here with the health segment of Buenas, and we've got Dr. J.K. Richter with us.
Patrick Lujan started as a reporter at just 19 years old. Within a year, he would catapult to the position of sports director. And like Carlotta, there were some wild times off and on air.
The promoters for the comedy show came up to me and asked me if you wanted to do sports with Tommy Chong during the 6 o'clock news. I said, sure, why not? I was setting it up. It was, I believe, the Thursday before his show, Friday. And he came in late. He was supposed to come in early to prep up and go through because he was actually going to do some play-by-play of a JFK volleyball game the night before. So he totally screwed it up. I mean, it was a free-for-all. He ended up talking about his show coming up, and then he gets onto the anchor desk, and it wasn't bolted down, and he was doing this push-up thing for some fitness, a make-believe fitness program that he had. And I remember Carmen Ulloa was in the back screaming, hold the desk, hold the desk. And I'm trying to hold down the desk so it won't tip over, and we're in live TV. And, you know, he was doing his push-ups, and it was just a free-for-all, and I didn't know how to handle it, but it turned out all right. And I'd have to say that will be probably my most memorable cast.
One of the longest running segments on KUAM was Health Note with Karen Flores. It eventually would lead to Karen's Kitchen and a segment with her daughter, Breesis Flores, called Project Kid.
1989 was the year, and it was about a year after I delivered my little girl who was born in '88. And Tom Bloss was, I don't think he was sports director then, but I think he was just starting to do the sports for KUAM. And we were still down at the old place in Chalampago. And they decided that back then, in fact, I think even in the States back then, they weren't even covering medical news as much. I think maybe Dr. Dean Adele had just started. And so he asked me, we were talking one night, and he asked me if I would be interested in writing a health program. So that's kind of how Health Note was kind of, I guess, brought into the picture. So I started doing Health Note, and actually proud to say that I had never repeated one program that I ever wrote. All my programs on Health Note were new programs. The formats changed along the years, but that program, I think, was probably the longest running program in the history of KUAM. That was 14 years.
After Buenas, more local programs would air on KUAM TV, like Island Stars and Jams TV. The program gave KUAM's sister FM station an opportunity to put a face to those behind the radio.
Top two winners from our final round, off to Hawaii, courtesy of Continental Air Micronesia.
Actually, you know, Joey Calvo actually came to us with that idea because in San Jose, the Bay Area, they had that one show where KMEL was doing a music type, MTV type of show, and we figured that'd be fun to do on Guam, and that was very, very interesting. That was very fun. And we started with Kelly and Eli, and then it kind of grew to, well, it ended with Kelly and Eli, but a lot of the other direct shops did some. You did some, I believe, and we had a good time. Again, the beauty about it is KUAM has that opportunity to showcase to the public or to Guam that Hollywood thing that they see on TV all the time. And by being out on locations and doing these Jams TV things, I mean, everyone was just happy to be on TV, and that was fun to do.
KUAM TV would also host live events like the grand opening of Planet Hollywood and one I'll never forget, the opening of the Hard Rock Cafe.
Greetings everyone, I'm Hollywood Harrison along with Sabrina Salas. We're backstage at the Hard Rock Cafe grand opening celebration. Gonna be a huge day down
KUAM also produced a countdown to the year 2000. Live from the streets of Tumon, KUAM brought you the Millennium. You may recall one of those reporters, a special friend of mine, who sent us this tape all the way from Honolulu, Hawaii.
Aloha everyone, or as they say in Guam, half a day, half a day, half a day. I knew you'd like that one. It's me, Steph. What? You don't remember me? Stephanie Lum. I used to work back there in '99. We rang in the New Year together. We did a live show in Tumon. Shawnee Gumatauta was wearing a tuxedo. Bree was looking all hot in her dress. Come on now, guys. Well, anyways, all kidding aside, I am very honored to be a part of KUAM's family, and I'm so happy that you guys are celebrating your 50th anniversary today. If it wasn't for the many people there, I probably would not be where I am now today, and that is here at KHNL News 8, the NBC affiliate in Honolulu, Hawaii. I hope that you guys continue to keep up the good work, and best of luck to you in the coming years. And if you ever have to stop by in Hawaii and need a place to stay, give me a call. Viva Manamko!
On the serious side, KUAM TV brought you special coverage of the former President Bill Clinton from touchdown to takeoff. KUAM was there on November 23rd, 1998. KUAM was also there to bring you nonstop coverage of the Korean air crash in August of 1997. A year later, we produced a one-year memorial special to pay tribute to the victims. It was 9/11, however, that tested the resolve of the reporters that were at KUAM at the time, each one trying to separate their emotions in order to report the news. Yana Person was a reporter at KUAM in 2001.
9/11 really changed my perspective. Our news team gathered together. We rallied in a way that I have never seen any one group of people do. At that moment, we were right there for each other. We had each other's backs the entire time. We turned out the most incredible series of news stories that you could possibly imagine. And it was due to the teamwork, the care and commitment we had for one another, and just the family feeling that we had watching this tragedy. I mean, it made us closer than any group of people I've ever been to in my life. And KUAM will always be a part of me because of that time, because of 9/11, and because of our handling of that situation. I'm very proud of that, and I always will be.
Off it, everyone. I'm Sabrina Salas.
Despite the many different local programs aired on KUAM TV, it was KUAM News that remained constant. It was in 1998 that I would finally take over as news director, hoping to fill the shoes of those before me. I wanted to bring a fresh new way of doing news at KUAM. The first step, changing KUAM Island News to News 8 and revamping KUAM.com to what it is today.
Well, the transition was an interesting one. We had to get rid of the pastel colors and the whole set. It was a bit worn, and when we came up with the whole News 8 concept, I think for the most part, we wanted to change, and I remember the conversation very, very vividly. We wanted to change the way that news had been done for the previous 20 years, and I think that what has happened since then has been true to form. It's done just that. I think it's went from, no offense to Carmen and those guys, but all the featurey, fluffy news that pretty much people had gotten used to a little bit more issues-oriented, very hard look at the serious issues that are facing our community. And I think that the people of Guam have really got to see something that, again, they had never seen before in politics and government and our military and all the whole community from a different perspective, and I think that people have been good for it.
Sean Gumatautau worked at KUAM for more than 7 years.
I started at KUAM in 1996 following the Olympic Games in Atlanta. I came on as a sports reporter and worked my way through the newsroom before I left the desk in 2003 as the anchor and reporter for KUAM. I'll say first off, the person that influenced me at least early when I first started, of course, was Tom Bloss. Tom Bloss, and we got to remember, I had a chance to cover sports for Guam, and I had a chance to cover the Olympic Games in 2000 following Team Guam. Tom is probably one of the few journalists in the Pacific to cover 3 Olympic Games, let alone to be a part of some major sports events in Guam. Early in my career, I mean, he was a big, he was very instrumental in the things that I did early on. And then I look at the, of course, anchoring with Sabrina Salas, who, to me, is a person who has the people of Guam's interests at heart. And as a news director, she was able to help guide a group of reporters to get those issues, and did something that other news directors really had a hard time doing, was getting the trust of their boss into doing something special. So I mean, so she was a pretty I guess instrumental part of what I did, and not to mention I anchored but next to her for more than half of my career, so it was good.
It wasn't only good for Sean and I. At times, it was downright crazy.
Now on the air, it's a different story. I guess sitting on the set during, I think was with you. We sat through an earthquake, watching the entire light grid move, and all we can do is sit there and not to panic and not to get the whole island in panic. We had to sit there and just, read through the last couple of scripts. But I never forget it, watching the camera shake, watching the light grid move around. I think even the power on the monitor went out for a while, but the whole place was shaking.
Well, it wasn't an earthquake the day I met a woman who, in my eyes, helped shake up the way news was done at KUAM. Gracie Kyanan was an intern when I first started as a reporter and anchor of KUAM's Late Edition in January of 1998. When I was promoted to news director a year later, I immediately assigned her to cover crime in courts. Her coverage led to numerous awards from the Micronesia Society of Professional Journalists for her coverage of the SDA shooting to breaking news stories. Gracie Kyanan was on the scene.
I think KUAM had a really positive experience, positive impact in my life, in that it really opened a lot of doors because people really identified with you and they felt like they know you because they saw you on TV. And at the same time, it opened doors for me career-wise because of what I was doing. And, covering the court beat for 2 years, I decided it was time to make a change. And what I did, because of what I was doing at KUAM, covering the court beat, I decided to go to law school. And because working with KUAM and dealing with the stress and deadlines, I think it also helped me in that aspect. And it also helped me mature and become a better person. I'm really grateful and thankful that I was able to be part of the news team for those 4.5 years. Okay, I think one person who definitely stood out while I was there was current news director Sabrina Salas. She stood out. She was a couple years older than me, and she was very mature, and she was really good at what she does. She was a great reporter, and she was an awesome news anchor, and I truly learned a lot from her. I started KUAM before she did, and when she came along, we went through some changes with management, and that was difficult in itself, dealing with that. But dealing with that, we grew, and in that time that we were growing at KUAM, I learned a lot from her. She taught me how to become a better reporter and really to take on the hard stories and really tackle the issues and really report what's going on to the people of Guam. And I'm really grateful that I had a chance to work with her and to know her, and I'm glad she's still part of the team.
Well, some of my former colleagues say I helped them. For me, it was really the other way around. It was people like Steph, Shawnee, Gracie, and Yana that taught me patience, how to really listen, and compassion.
When I first joined the team, I had absolutely no newsroom experience at all. I mean, I had been a proficient writer for a very long time and had excellent communication skills, but at the time I thought, okay, I'm going to be a junior reporter for years. It's going to take me forever. But, you know, luckily, my news director, my station manager, my producers and stuff allowed me to venture out and prove myself. And in a matter of months, I had graduated to a true full-fledged reporter with my own set of beats and my own set of interests that I was allowed to explore and develop. And from there, just surely through, you know, my efforts and the efforts of my team around me, I was able to become an anchor. And for someone so young, it's just extremely rare, but that's the caliber of the work at KUAM. You prove yourself, and you get the experience, and you get the opportunities. That's not true in every newsroom. From there, I was able to even get my own show. And obviously, at a 24-year-old having her own show, it's unheard of across the states. But sunk my teeth in and wrote it until the end. And I'll never forget it. It's been, still to this day, the most incredible experience I've ever had.
As for the news team I'm working with now, they too are my teachers. Ken Wetmore, Mindy Fothergill, Zita Taitano, Fredlyn Mortera Hesita, Marissa Eusebio, Jason Salas. They're not just co-workers, they're family. The photographers, that's another story. With them, it's a non-stop comedy show. They keep me laughing, keep me sane, and keep me humble. More importantly, though, working at KUAM has afforded me the opportunity to meet so many wonderful and amazing people. My colleagues here at KUAM have always been very supportive, understanding, and have pushed me to continue to strive to do better. To all the former news teams and news directors that have come before me, thank you for laying the foundation. You've built the framework for all of us here today to carry on the tradition of keeping the people of Guam informed.
Now that you've had the opportunity to see some of the clips of our former KUAM employees back in their heyday here at KUAM, moving on to video you probably haven't seen. Actually, I don't think we've ever aired our blooper tapes on KUAM. Tonight, we're pulling out all the stops. Here's what happens when reporters just can't seem to get it together when the cameras are on. And I know by the time it's over, all our cameramen and former KUAM cameramen will be saying, gotcha.
Nice blooper shots.
Okay, one more time.
Choke kiss again. All right, blooper.
Thank you.
New York, Lamar Hoyt, who won 24 games for the Chicago White Sox during the 1983 season. And finally, here's the Quisenberry, right? Quisenberry. Finally, here's the latest National Hockey League score. Blah. And finally,
I'm sweating. Production, bringing you radio reports. The day's news coverage, the day's...
Channel 8, and I finally boot one up. KUAM is a...
Hi, I'm Nestor Licanto, and at KUAM we believe that it takes a good... Hi, I'm Nestor Licanto, and at KUAM we believe it takes teamwork to produce a good news report. Hi, I'm Nestor Licanto.
We were once doing an interview with a former governor, whom I won't name, who was bragging to the Secretary of Interior, I mean, that's the quality of people we got in our studios, about how he had solved the wild dog problem. And just then, like it was on cue, here comes this female dog in heat with about 15 yappers right behind her. And the governor stood up and told his driver, "Get your gun and shoot them dogs." It was nuts.
The motley crew from the fishing boat, the Chamarito, came into port yesterday with a boat record 4 marlin. We'll have details on our 6:38 news. 6:38. Get out of here, Unshuk. 6:38 news.
earring fall off one time, like while I was anchoring, and that was sort of silly because it was a clip-on earring. I was like, whoops, and it dropped right off my ear in the middle of the newscast. I just kept on reading. And then I think the one worst thing that could ever happen is hiccups. People don't think about it, but I was coming back from the scene, and I got the hiccups, and you just can't stop the hiccups. There's nothing you can do. You can hold your breath or grab water, but so I'm trying to read the story, and I'm hiccuping. And of course, I'm trying to pass it off to the co-anchor or something because I was hiccuping. It was terrible. That was a funny one. There was another time I was doing Buenos, and we had the guys over from, what was the place? Sandcastle. And they brought with them a little white Bengal tiger. I loved animals. I said, oh, let's bring him on the show. So they brought the white Bengal tiger, and we brought him on Buenos. And I'm scratching his tummy, and of course I didn't realize that cats don't like being scratched in the tummy, so things started to bite me. So I was like, yikes, I'm bleeding at this point. I'm like, oh, this is really great. You know, so we're playing with the cat. This is the beginning of the show. We walk out for the real quick break, and we're going to put the mics on the next group, and I start to just blow up. My eyes start to run. My nose starts to run. I start to just, I'm all red, and it turns out, I guess I was allergic to white Bengal tigers. Who knew? And so I'm thinking, oh no, there's nobody else to do the next segment, so I had to go out and do the interview with the next group, like all puffed up and sneezing, and because I basically had caught some allergy from the tiger.
Ryan and Katie talk to experts about premenstrual syndrome, and they take a visit to the New York City Public Library.
Which basically...
Hello.
Hey, sit down, Kat. My executive assistant.
A line, you cut that, and you're going to juice that one line in, all right? Juice in that line. Well, wait a minute. You'll cut that, of course.
You are not alone. I am here with you. Wait, I've been here to stay.
Juvenile self-determination, immigration control, and mutual consent. That is, a hard sell softened a bit with some diplomacy.
At night, the 10 o'clock news was the rebroadcast, and for the most part, all you'd have to do is redo one story. The cameraman and the reporter would go out and get one additional, maybe two stories, come back, and they would attach that to the original newscast that ran at 6 p.m. But then you had to also anchor the 10 o'clock news. And in this huge studio was just one anchor with two cameras. The cameras each had their tally lights, but in order for you to know to go from one camera to the next, the tally light in your peripheral vision would be blinking so you would know to turn. And there was one technical director in the back, so there's just the two of you. So there's a monitor to your left, and I would see my profile show up. So I was anchoring the news on, and we went to a commercial break. So I started to talk to the cameraman, and I saw my peripheral vision. In my peripheral vision, I saw myself come up, so I continued the news. But he did this 6 times. I was never on the air. He was messing with me. He was patching me in to the monitor, and I got so irritated with him, I finally looked up and I said, "You're messing with me. I'm not going to continue that. Stop it." And I think I might have said something really bad, and the tally lights started flashing back and forth, and I realized I must be on the air. He must not be kidding this time. So I finished the newscast, and he came in to the newsroom on his knees, walking on his knees all the way, and I was so angry at him. The phone banks lit up. The first one I picked up was my father scolding me because it looked bad. No matter whose fault it is, the reporter is the one that looks bad. And so it was a lesson to me. And that was Tom Tanner.
And now for your most comprehensive look at news, it's KUAM Island News with up-to-the-minute coverage from the Island News team.
Court's decision. And finally, the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority recently completed construction of a basketball half court of the youth in what the hell does that mean? A basketball half court of the youth. A basketball half court of the youth. What the hell does that mean? But that's what they did.
But then we started learning a lot. And I got the idea because Brad McCready told me his son goes to daycare. Kiss me.
What were the findings?
the findings were very, very favorable. And there are obviously also did I say actonation? Can we do that one over? Because you know, I'm thinking Tolentino, I'm thinking already
Well, clearly, you know, you're dealing with live television, and that in and of itself is going to cause all sorts of hysterical situations. I mean, you know, things happen on live TV that you can't anticipate. I recall being, you know, thrown on camera very unexpectedly as I'm getting fully hydrated out of a gallon bottle of water, and all of a sudden I'm on TV drinking a gallon bottle of water, and, you know, other segments of the news have areas where you are reading on top of video, and you anticipate not being seen. So I'm, you know, letting the people of Guam know how the weather in Hawaii is going to be, and I'm doing my little hula dance. The next thing I know, I'm on the screen doing the hula dance. So, you know, live TV does present some challenges, but it's also a lot of fun, and I just wish that some of the people knew just how much fun we have behind the scenes, or when they're seeing another story on TV, just how much fun we're having behind those cameras.
Causing a massive and deadly explosion. Eyewitnesses tell Island News the car was going at a speed that was fast. Oh.
Ready? A confirmation, take 10,003.
Low life sports page. Come on, miss.
Which of the following former and current elected officials worked at KUAM during some point in their career? A. Senator Bob Klitsky. B. Former Senator Carlotta Leon Guerrero. C. Congresswoman Madeline Berdallo. D. All of the above. We'll have the answer when we return. Before the break, we asked which of the following former and current elected officials worked at KUAM during some point in their career. A. Senator Bob Klitsky. B. Former Senator Carlotta Leon Guerrero. C. Congresswoman Madeline Berdallo. The answer is all of the above, as the three were all broadcasters at different points in time while at KUAM. For those who were around during the time, many former employees of KUAM, during our interviews with them, talked about their time at our old studios in Orat, Chalampago. While we're sitting pretty comfortably here in our Harmon studios now, back then it was almost as if rats and wild animals were part of the crew.
Orat was a very funny place.
And we had a lot of rodents in that studio.
Lo and behold, there was a rat in the toilet. There were rats everywhere. I mean, they lived above. They didn't come down to where we were, but we knew they were there.
Oh, there's a rat in the console chewing the wires. That's why the cart machine won't work.
Always, without fail, there would be this rat.
Just from snout to, that's not even the tail, right? The tail probably would have been like that, but it had chased Melanie.
That would come out while I was writing my story and picking off my sound bites and go underneath my feet. So I would like lift my feet up as the rat would go off, and then I would hear Gary scream, and then that it was coming back, and then it would come back, and I would lift my legs up again. But that's really one of the most memorable stories.
While I was on camera talking about how wonderful the product was, and I was going to show my cupcakes, there was a rat in the back eating it. So I'll never forget that, you know. Those were the days.
Melinda Coates went into the ladies' room one day and ready to perform her operations, and lo and behold, there was a rat in the toilet. And I've always wondered until just recently how they were able to do that. And there was a special on the History Channel just this past year called Rats, Bats, and Bugs, which I had the privilege to help the History Channel with when they came to Guam for the fruit bats. And rats are able to go up literally through the sewer pipes, and they don't have to deal with 6 inches of water because it's air underneath and air above. So that kind of answered the question. And Melinda was pretty cool about it, considering, you know, ladies are not traditionally used to hanging around with rats, particularly when they're in the toilet.
It should be required, I think, of anybody who wants to do anything in media should be required to go through that building at least once and see what that was about. It was a series of modular things put together in a haphazard way. And there were rats everywhere. I mean, they lived above. They didn't come down to where we were, but we knew they were there. Families of them. And it was just a strange time.
I was on the air one night, and we used cart machines for our commercials. We didn't have computers, and they're like the big 8-track tapes. I don't know if you guys are all really young, you may not remember carts, but we had 2 in the studio. One of them wasn't working, didn't know why, and all of a sudden I see wires in a hole in the console, and they're being pulled, and I'm like, what is this? Oh, okay. And I'm looking into this hole, and all of a sudden I see this rat's nose. Oh, there's a rat in the console chewing the wires. That's why the cart machine won't work.
And I'm on the air.
So I call the tech. Kenny, it's Kenny Tidico at the time. Kenny, come down, there's a rat in the console. And so Kenny comes, he takes off the face of the console, so he's taking off the panel, and he's knocking on the sides. Millie, there's nothing in here. Kenny, it's not working, there's something there. All of a sudden, and he's got his face in there with a flashlight, all of a sudden this big black rat jumps out at his face, and I'm standing on a chair, and it runs out the door. It was happy, and I was freaked out, and Kenny was like, he turned white.
I got chased by one night coming from the back. The sales department of those poor people were just infested with them. They had them really bad. And I could hear it though. Someone, I think it might even have been you, had said you'd seen one, and I mean, just from snout to, that's not even the tail, right? The tail probably would have been like that, but it had chased Millie. And I was coming up the hallway, and I could hear, it's like, okay, that is either a big rat or someone has let a small dog loose in this building.
I was afraid to look back and see what was chasing me one night, because all of a sudden behind me, I was like, do-do-do-do-do-do, and I was like, oh no, I just took off running, and I locked myself in the studio. I was afraid to come out.
One night I set it up, it was about 6 in the evening, and the doors were open, and this goat came in, Small goat came in the studio, and I said, wow, a goat. So he was already announcing the news, this guy named Red. So I closed the doors real quietly, I wanted to catch this goat. So as he was sitting there giving the news, there was a chair there, and I tried to tiptoe around the studio, and he jumped up on the chair, this goat, and he was this far away from Red, and he went, bah! I think Red he almost dropped dead, We had to stop the news for 15 minutes.
Some things apparently just don't change. It's funny because we actually have some friendly critters running around here as well, but that's another story. Hopefully, I'll be around to share that with you during the 100th year anniversary. All joking aside, though, as you've heard from some of our former employees, despite the problems at our old studios in Ordot, it was still a good time working for KUAM. And while it may have been a good time, any of our former employees will tell you it's also a lot of hard work. Here's a behind-the-scenes look at a day on the job at KUAM.
Welcome back to the show. This is Positively Local. Once again, it's about that time we bring up the host of the show, Mr. Tony Blas. Buenas, Tony.
Buenas, Alfredito, the subject of the blog. It is your Island Pride station, John Afaji, in the morning with Long Revere, Kevin Kev. Thank you very much, John, for bringing us into your show. Right now, here's some Casey De Leon Guerrero.
637-6100 is the number to call if you have any birthday dedication, shout-outs, or requests.
Good morning, KUAM. Kindly hold while I transfer you to Master Control.
Good morning, KUAM Master Control. Yes, ma'am. One moment, please. Dateline airs at 7.
and it is a 2-hour program. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Hey Jody, I have this weekend's lineups for you in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right, which animal has the most taste buds? Chimpanzee, catfish, dolphin, or Rosie O'Donnell?
Rosie O'Donnell.
From the KUAM News team, this is KUAM News intern Keith Juarez. Good morning, Half a Day.
Good morning, Daryl, and good morning, Guam. The Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association.
We have 2 more sponsors at the spring season finale. Here's the contract here. Check out the rates and
Hey, this is good. That's wonderful.
we're ready for us.
Take a look at
I'll be at my desk.
Thanks, Amy.
And programming change for Friday on TV 11.
We're going to air, instead of 48 hours, it's CSI Miami.
How you doing? 8 numbers are up. Clients are happy. We're gonna keep this whole momentum. Excuse me. Hate to be rude, guys. That's the reason why we give our clients the best marketing strategies to advertise for their company. So, if you step back, it's kind of top secret. Enjoy the show. Thank you.
Our discussions going on now between the ADA and some court officials trying to see how this issue could be resolved.
He's lying.
However, I think
Well, you know, again, since ADA was issued and addressed, and any concerns can be assuaged.
Drink also available is the lobby bar, which overlooks the best feature of the hotel, the Rainforest Atrium.
Ready? Good, you can drop some ice.
It appears the extended Associate Defense Advocate's contract may have put a damper on any plans to put... Huh?
Shift your cup, please.
Mic check, check. 34789.
This is News 8 Prime Time.
Buenas, thanks for joining us for News 8 Prime Time.
The closure of the clinic means between 200 and 250 cancer patients.
Well, there's a little known saying that goes, wish in one hand and spit in the other and see which one gets full first.
If you'd like to look at Build 255 for yourself, you can go to KUAM's website where we have a link. As we look at the current conditions outside of our Harmon studios, well, the skies are mostly cloudy with some scattered showers.
Sweetie's in the house. Hey guys, Sweetie's in the hizzy.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea I was doing that.
Well, I didn't figure you did. It's just I do the same thing when I get here. I like used to tap on the floor like. Hi there and welcome to the Middle Light Sports page.
Sit-ups and push-ups were done by A-Rod and Jeter. Tony Clark, 2 home runs in the game, 1 to right field.
From all of us here at KUAM, good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you then.
What year did KUAM TV begin transmitting local programs in color? 1956, 1966, or 1972? We'll have the answer when we return. Before the break, we asked what year did KUAM TV begin transmitting local programs in color? The answer is 1972. It's been 32 years since KUAM TV's first local color broadcast. Through the course of putting this special together and meeting some of the former employees of KUAM, one thing stood out. It's the stories they told about the bond and relationships that were formed during their time here. It's those relationships that these employees built and till this day remains intact. Even their most memorable moments of their time here not only made me laugh, but left me with this amazing feeling of being a part of something special.
I would simply say that I appreciated everybody's contributions and the teamwork and the camaraderie that we had. To the various owners who footed the bill throughout the years, all the way up to the Calvo family today, I would say that it's a special thing to own a media property. And it's not always a fun thing, because when it's not making money, you got to write checks to prop it up. So I would think that I would thank them for their support and all the owners throughout the years, that they put their name on the line to make radio and TV happen in this market, to create it and to keep it going. And I think that's part of it. You have to congratulate them for having, the will to go forward even when times aren't good. And in the end, I think there's a payoff. So with that, and I would say happy 50th KUAM. I was proud to be part of it.
You know, my experience here, the most I took with me was my relationships with the people that I worked with. I think, from the clients and the relationships that I formed with the clients and working with them to help, build their advertising and build their business, to my coworkers and people that I will consider friends for the rest of my life. That's what I took from KUAM. KUAM was a family and still remains a family. And anyone who works at KUAM knows what I'm talking about. You come and go, but you'll always have that KUAM family, that base. And when you leave KUAM and you work other places, you can have a wonderful experience in other places, but you'll always remember and treasure the time that you had with KUAM. I truly believe that.
I'm really happy about KUAM and its 50th anniversary. This was a major company in this community. Obviously now there are lots of radio stations and there are several television stations. You guys have a couple of them. But at one time there was one radio and one television that people could watch. And that was KUAM, and that they could listen to was KUAM radio. And a lot of people came through KUAM who went on to bigger and better things, such as our present Washington delegate, Madeline Bordallo, who was once a hostess of a television show here. So it's played a big part in the lives of this community and a lot of the people here. And I had a small part in it for about 4 years as the general manager here, and enjoyed, as I recall, most of the time that I spent here. So I think it was great. But I certainly wish KUAM well. This has been a great place, a great company, still is. You guys do a great job. I'm one of your biggest fans. I watch the television news every night, so got to know what's happening. Happy birthday.
Happy 50th anniversary, KUAM.
I remember when James Castro got a call and he said, Mariah Carey's coming to Guam. And he's like, can you go down there and see her? I was like, you're kidding me, right? And then about 2-3 minutes later, we got a call from, I think at the time it was Congressman Underwood, saying that Mariah is going to come to Guam. And that's when I knew he was serious. And I think that was probably my most memorable experience, was just to sit down right near her and just interview her, what she thought about the island and, you know, what she was going to do, which was, I think she swam for about an hour and a half, you know, so that was one of my memorable experiences. I guess the other one would be the Sugar Ray concert, where I was backstage and a bunch of guys came up, you know, and I was just by myself, and he came up to me and he shook my hand. It was Mark McGrath. Yeah, he just shook my hand, and I didn't even know who Sugar Ray was at the time. You know, it's like I thought he was just one of the stage hands or one of the guys in the back or something, you know, but he came up to me, and the next thing you know, 5 minutes later, I see him up on stage.
Happy 50th birthday, KUAM.
One of the amazing things about KUAM is that KUAM has been a training ground for people who went on to become quite successful. Dave Neugebauer, who was working in production, is now a major location video production guy for big touring acts, popular music stars, you know. I mentioned Teresa Norton. She went to Hong Kong, where she married Bob Bobert, who also used to work at KUAM. She started on the radio with a Chinese guy, and they were doing bilingual morning radio. She became a media icon in Hong Kong and is still. Now she's a newspaper columnist, I think for the South China Post. You might want to check on that. Gosh, who else? Roel Santiago's brother has a video production facility, or he works for the networks in Los Angeles. And there are a few other people whose names I don't recall right now, but they are now very high up in the industry, and they all pretty much started at KUAM. And of course, Herman Crisostomo and Carlos Barreto, they both started at KUAM. Herman came back with a master's degree in film from at California. Carlos was the road manager for the Casuals, which was a local band who had gone to Honolulu, who I used to play with. And Carlos and his wife Marie basically, I think, said, Carlos, we can't be living on the road like this. So he came back, and he was a friend of mine from back when I was a musician. And he said, you think you can get me a job here? So I talked him up really big to management. I said, yeah, you got to hire this guy. I mean, he knows audio, but he also knows lighting now because he was the Casuals road manager. And so Herman and Carlos went from KUAM and established Shooting Star Productions. And Herman is now the general manager for KGTF.
To all the staff and the management at KUAM, have a very happy 50th anniversary.
I have several, just for selfish reasons. One of my most memorable interviews was with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was really early on in my career over at KUAM. I was very junior reporter and was given the opportunity to go get the story and had to con my way out on the blacktop, but I did come back with the story, and I was proud of that. But I was more proud of stories that affected people. I was a healthcare reporter, so when there were issues of healthcare that I could step in and be effective or, assist them in any way, that was the most rewarding. I had an instance where I had a story about an infant who was on the verge of dying, and through my story and through just the sheer caring and commitment of the community in Guam, we were able to raise money for her and provide her with surgery she would have never had before. And those are the types of stories that most affect me, and those are the ones that I'll carry with me forever.
It provided me a way to understand government more broadly, to understand how government interacts with the private sector, even the branches of government, politics, the intricacies of politics. There is so much. I would suggest this job to absolutely anybody, just because it opens so many doors, and then you'll also get to meet people that you wouldn't otherwise meet or necessarily hobnob with. Leaders, developers, inventors. You wouldn't normally even have a reason to meet them and to talk with them, but this job provides you that, and I think it's really cool. It opens all sorts of doors. I mean, even up till now, people will say, hey, you're Cindy Gout, you're the one who used to do the news, right? I mean, they date themselves when they say that, but it's true. Yeah.
Happy birthday to KUAM, to its viewers, to the people that work there, the people that make it happen every day. Happy birthday.
It's good to see how far KUAM has come, and I know that back in the day, the first signing on, just reading the history through the website, even though we had really rough times in the 80s, it was everybody there was always able to pull it through and help it grow and have it grow as a company. And it's always going to be leadership. And so I just hope that the leadership continues. The leadership that is current continues to take KUAM further, and because it's really good for the people of Guam. It's good. It's so much part of the community that I would just hope that the leadership continues to grow and KUAM just continues to kind of be the eyes and ears, you know, of the island. Yeah. So congratulations.
I think KUAM will be around forever. I mean, it's you know, the slogan, your slogan, first on Guam. I mean, that covers a lot of things. One of which, of course, is that KUAM was the first on Guam, the first radio station, first TV station. So that's awesome. It's jump-started so many careers of so many people that, you know, we know around the island. I mean, there's like, you know, it's almost like we have this club amongst us. We say, hey, well, you worked at KUAM. Well, you worked at, you know, it's the worked at KUAM club. So just in terms of what KUAM provides to the community, but also what it's provided to each of us personally. You know, we've made so many friends, and, you know, we have this like family. I mean, I know I have this other family here at KUAM, you know, and that I'll always be a part of that. So I love that it's KUAM's 50th anniversary. I'm sure there will be a 100th anniversary and a 150th anniversary. And I like the way that I see the stations going, you know, the directions and what they're offering to the people. So
That's very cherry.
Yeah. We're proud, man.
It's like butter.
I see KUAM as my second family, and that's because of the bond that I shared with them the 5 years I was there. And I have to say, it's really funny when you're looking from the outside, because when you look at the news team working together, you go through like high stress and trying to meet the deadlines, and everybody's going crazy just trying to put things together for the 6 o'clock news show. And sometimes, well, most of the time, like I remember being stressed, but it's just kind of nice that when you're working in like high intense stress, that once the show's over, we all come together and start laughing at the day and how crazy and hectic it was. But one thing I remember, well, something that always is in my mind with regards to the KUAM Museum is just this family, or the family environment created within the team, and how we were all close and we all shared laughs after the show.
One thing I can say is that as a part of the broadcast community on this island, it seemed that every single person knew much more about my life than probably even my own family at times. From the birth of my children to getting a new job. I think it was a very public thing. And sharing that with the community was something special. I think that my memory of KUAM, at least even leaving, it's everyone was able to see and watch me grow. And leaving was a tough one, but I gotta say that at least everyone knew, everybody, and it was a family, not just the reporters, but also the community that also watched.
I'd just like to say good luck to you guys, and best of luck to KUAM. I think you're very important to the people of Guam, and I hope that there's many, many, many more years of KUAM for all of us to enjoy.
I'd like to wish KUAM a happy 50th anniversary. All my friends that I knew, all my friends that I know, and to all the new staff at KUAM, keep on keeping on. Your master disaster, JG and the Wireless Rock, cruising, dancing, and romancing on KUAM. Thank you.
One of the roles that I had was really working with all the management to design the new station up in Harmon. I actually took some time off from producing, and really in the mornings worked on determining all the requirements, figuring out, you know, what kind of structure that the office needed to have, where the edit bays needed to go, where the power outlets needed to be to make sure that the 3/4 machines had power, you know, how the reporters would be set up. So if you guys don't like it now, you can blame me. I was the one that drew out the plans. You know, designed that front entrance with the windows so that when people walk in, they can see the AM, the FM, and the TV switching. all of that basically was a design. I dabbled in design and architecture and worked with a fantastic group of contractors. Designed the studios, came up with that whole Eiffel wood-looking desk with the photograph in the back, which was like one of our original sets. And I really had a great time, and I felt so much a part of building KUAM, and it's so wonderful to see you guys doing so well now, because I felt like I had a role in that.
Happy 50th anniversary, KUAM.
I mean, I learned some things that I took out of the business and took on with me into my work in the government and into my work in labor relations. I think the most important was the word we instead of I. Because that was a big thing for Harry and for all the people who had management roles at KUAM. They said, hey, it ain't you, it's we, us, our station. It's not my station, my show, my newscast. It's our program. And I hope some young people are learning that today at KUAM.
I think the one of my most memorable moments at KUAM, it actually didn't even have to do with any of the stories I did, but it was just the camaraderie that we had. And you know, it was one big family. And I remember lunch times, you know, when Econ, Ed Conception would bring lunch, and he would share it with everyone. You know, he'd bring his cousin Pika and would share. I remember that distinctly because things sure are different back here. You know, there's no such thing as sharing your lunches back here with other people. You know, so I remember that, and that's one of my memorable moments, just hanging out in the lunchroom there at KUAM in Harmon, just, you know, sharing lunches. Econ usually fed us.
It's something that I will always treasure. The people here we're like brothers and sisters, you know. But when 6 o'clock rolls around at the same time every day, you know, and whoever's worked in the business knows that the time doesn't stop for anybody. So there's times where it's going to get a little heated in the newsroom, and that probably happens on a daily basis. I'm sure it happens up till now. But when all is said and done and we do a good job on the 6 o'clock news, you know, you see each other high-fiving each other and saying, good job, good job. They'll go out and have a drink after that and be a family. And, you know, what was happening between 5 and 6 o'clock, all the yelling, is all forgiven because that's understood. So that's probably the story behind the scenes that I tell my family and friends the most.
Well, you know what, I'll say this. I actually came back to KUAM a second time and did some talk radio for a while, but any experience in life is a good experience, and this was a great one at KUAM. Guam was a terrific experience for me because I met my wife, and I had my first child out there, William Lee, who's a terrific little boy, and KUAM was the ways to a means. If it hadn't been for KUAM, I never would have gotten to Guam, never would have met the woman I'm spending the rest of my life with, and I never would have had my son with her. So I owe him a debt of gratitude for that. And I wish him a very happy 50th anniversary.
10 years there, I have a lot of stories, and I think the most memorable one was all of the girls that I worked with in the last part of my tenure at KUAM, just going out and just being together at promotions and our own time, and having 6 pregos at KUAM at the same time. There were 6 of us pregnant at the same time, and let me tell you, that set for some good moods in the sales team.
I want to say that I miss working at KUAM and working for KUAM, and that every single person here I've had some wonderful experience with, and whether I ask them to, you know, produce a commercial for some show or some fundraiser that we're doing, there's never no. They always help, and even still to this day, everybody's my friend. And I don't think that, and I think that if anything would ever happen in my life, or if it was a phone call away, I think that anybody would do anything for me here.
Like Karen, I too feel that if I were to need anything, my family here at KUAM would be there for me as well. So to all the current and former employees of KUAM, we did it, we're still here, and we're still going strong. Thank you. And thank you, all of our viewers of KUAM TV 8 and TV 11, and to all our listeners on I-94 and Isla 61. Without you, we really wouldn't be here today to celebrate our 50th anniversary. As the founder of KUAM, the late Harry Engels, said on the first radio broadcast of KUAM, we pledge to always work in the best interest of the people. Thank you for watching, and happy 50th KUAM.